Yo! Welcome back to One More Mana. My name's Derek, and today I am coming at you guys with a deck tech for Intet the Dreamer. Intet is 3 and Teamer, or blue-red-green, for a legendary dragon that is a 6/6 with flying. And the best part about this card is its relatively unique, really fun effect. What it does is whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you can pay 2 and a blue, and it lets you exile the top card of your library. As long as it's exiled, it says you can look at it, and whenever Intet's on the battlefield, you can cast that card without paying its mana cost. Now, this is exciting and really interesting for a whole bunch of reasons. The first thing is, a lot of the time when cards say you can exile a card off the top of a library and cast it without paying a mana cost, most of the time it needs you to cast it right then. This gives you flexibility. So, if it's not the perfect time for a big CMC spell to be cast, it's not just lost to exile. You actually have chances to play it later, which is super cool. Now, the theme of this deck, and really with most Intet decks, you're going to have the whole theme of you want to cheat things out. That's the theme of him. You kind of want to make that, you feel it throughout the deck. But this deck is unique and really fun in the sense where it has kind of a token sub-theme to it. So not only do we want to cheat things out, but we want to make massive tokens, clone the tokens, clone other people's cards, and cause some chaos and have some fun. One thing I do want to mention is that in the framework of this whole cheating out strategy, Intet gives you so much flexibility. One of the coolest things about this commander is it really just lets you play your favorite cards, really what Commander's all about. It just, whatever you like, if you like Eldrazi, if you just like whatever big, dumb, fun spells you like, as long as you got ways to cheat them out, you can put them in this deck, and it's really flexible to any type of player that wants to play Intet. Starting with the creatures, we have 32 creatures. So with Intet, we want to be able to replicate his effect, because the thing is, if we get taxed out of being able to play him, and he begins to cost 8, 10, 12, however many mana, we don't want to be in a situation where not only do we not have enough mana to cast our commander, but now we can't cast the other cards because we are reliant on the commander for cheating them out. So, running cards like Champion of Ronis or Elvish Piper are amazing because this lets us cheat out big creatures in other ways, and if for whatever reason we don't have access to Intet, this lets us keep the deck running and not put us in a situation where we have all these huge bombs in hand and not enough mana to cast them. Speaking of huge creatures, one of the most important creatures in my mind in this deck is Sirach Dragonclaw. This card is just so perfect for any deck with massive creatures because, one, it gives them trample. And a lot of things with massive creatures is a lot of them don't have trample. Whether you want to look at the Eldrazi or really just, there's so many creatures that have these huge power that have no way to get the damage through if they just have a chump blocker. So being able to just universally give trample is amazing. But in addition to that, and maybe more importantly, it doesn't let your creature spells get countered. And in a deck where you're trying to cheat massive things out, those are the type of creatures that people are going to try to use counter spells on. And in the case that maybe you're hard casting some massive creature, you don't want to tap out, spend all your mana, and have it countered. So this card is amazing in a deck where we have all these big creatures. Now I mentioned there's also kind of a token clone sub-theme. So we're also going to be running cards like Fairy Artisans, which is just such a cool card. It really just lets you steal all the end of the battlefield effects of other people's creatures. But it also has the opportunity to steal one of their massive creatures and really fits under that cheating mana cost theme because if someone plays and that betrays, you just get a token of it for free. And I understand, every time a token is created, it exiles the old token. But this has the opportunity not only to steal a bunch of end of the battlefield effects, but you may be able to get some massive creatures out with the low mana investment of just 4 mana. So I mentioned we have creatures trying to cheat stuff out. We have token generators that are kind of cheating stuff out. And now we're going to have actual tokens that are, in a sense, cheating things out. And a great example of this is Reform. So you have this little 4 mana 0/1, but if it dies, it goes to a 3/3. And then if that dies, it can go to a 6/6. And if that dies, it goes all the way up to a 9/9. One of the best things about this card is it's really good protection from board wipes, for one, because in a deck with a lot of huge spells, board wipes can be really, really just damaging to our strategy if we just cheat all these giant things out and they're just blown up. So this is kind of good insurance so you at least have something left, but also fits that theme of cheating things out because we just put a 4 mana investment and you can end up getting back a whole bunch of just creatures because that 3/3, maybe you can use it as a chump blocker, and then it'll become that 6/6 that maybe you can use it to swing in, and maybe you need another blocker. And the thing is, you get essentially 4 creatures for the price of 1, and with other effects, with our tokens, this can get out of hand real fast. So the last creature that I really want to mention is Cryptoplasm. Cryptoplasm is 1 and 2 blue for a creature that has a really cool effect, and that it is a clone that changes over time. Basically, every upkeep you get to choose a different creature that you want it to be a clone of. But it retains that ability of every upkeep becoming a clone of something else. And in a deck like this, where in any given turn you may be cheating out something new and gigantic, this is a really cool effect. And again, it's a 3 mana investment. So this flexibility of being able to pick different giant creatures to get out for only that 3 mana investment, with the potential of it being giant, again, it fits that theme of getting around big mana costs, and it allows for flexibility for different game situations. Looking at the Planeswalkers, we're only going to run one. It's Xenagos the Reveler. He's just a really good source of ramp in this deck. We're running a good number of creatures, and with some of the token effects, we could end up with a large number of creatures, being able to create a bunch of mana for all those creatures, but in addition, having colored mana for all those creatures is a really good thing to have, and it can help us, again, hit those high CMC spells if we can't cheat them in the first place. Looking at the sorceries, we have 9. The first one I want to point out, it really does everything we want to do, is Rite of Replication. This card is awesome. I know it's a 4 CMC spell, it might as well be a 9 CMC spell, because I feel like everyone casts this kicked. If you just cast it regularly, you get 1 clone of a creature, but if you cast it kicked, you get 5 tokens that are a copy of a creature. This, with a lot of creatures, just having 5 of something it could be game ending. It really can, and especially where we have a lot of ways to take advantage of these tokens, or just take advantage of having a lot of creatures. This, again, is just a potential game ender. It's such a powerful card, and it just fits so well with what we want to do. The next one I want to mention is Selvalis Stampede. Again, so on theme for this deck. This is a really powerful card, and basically everyone gets to vote wild or free. Now, for every wild vote, you flip cards from the top of your library to hit a creature, and that creature gets cheated into play. And every free vote, you just get to put any permanent from your hand onto the battlefield. This is one of those cards that your opponent really doesn't have a good choice, especially if you have any decent number of cards in hand. It can be scary to put any permanent, and maybe they might want to limit you to creature. But in this deck, it's a win-win. We don't mind. We have so many giant creatures and just giant spells in general. It's just going to feel good to cheat them out regardless of which one it is. Looking at the instance, we have 10. Most of these just being simple removal spells and lots of counter spells, which is obviously something we're going to want, because we have a lot of big effects in this deck. Big, stompy effects, whether it's cheating a giant thing into play, or I just mentioned like a Rite of Replication. We want to be able to cast giant things and be able to protect those things we cast. If we just spend all that mana on a Rite of Replication, for example, and we have all these tokens, we want to be able to counter a board wipe if it's about to be cast, or if we're trying to cast a big threat, like an Ulamog, we don't want someone to just be able to Path to Exile it like that. We want to be able to protect our stuff, so lots of counter spells are crucial in a deck like this. But the one that is, I believe, the all-star of this deck is a card called Spell Swindle. I absolutely love this card. I'm such a big fan of this card. Spell Swindle is in the family of counter spells that lets you counter something and then get mana back after countering it. But the thing that's unique about this is when you counter a spell, you get treasure tokens equal to that spell's CMC back. Meaning, not only do you get colored mana, but you also have flexibility on when to spend that mana. And again, in this deck, where we have a lot of huge spells, having a counter spell that doubles as ramp is just so beneficial. Now looking at the enchantments, we have 10. First one I'm going to mention is one of my favorite cards, period. It's super powerful and a super fun effect, and it's Mind's Dilation. Whenever your opponents cast their first spell, they literally just have to flip the top card, and if it's a non-land card, you just get to cast it. Again, so on theme, we get to cheat potentially big spells into play depending on what your opponents are playing. But one of the most fun things about this card is, especially in Commander, if you're playing with 3 opponents, this can trigger 3 times per round at the table, meaning your odds of hitting something amazing are even higher. This is usually a high priority for your opponents to get rid of as soon as it hits the table. It tends not to stay around very long, but if it does, the value you get off of this is insane. The next card is an enchantment called Soothsaying. This card is so cool. You really just get to pay X mana, look at the top X cards of your library, and put them back in any order you want. With a card like Intet, this is just so powerful, because we literally can dig as deep as we have mana to pick the exact card we want to cheat into play at a given time. This is so powerful, and it's going to let us get exactly what we need at the time we need it. It essentially works as an insane source of card draw in this deck, because we just get access to so many more cards, and the fact it's only 1 mana to play out is crazy. The last card I'm going to mention is Parallel Lives. I feel like everybody knows about this card. It shouldn't be a huge surprise once I said the word token sub-theme, but it is super powerful because, again, not only are we making tokens, but we're trying to make huge, big, powerful tokens. So to be able to get copies, again, getting more value for the mana we're spending. Moving on to the artifacts, we have 4. The one I really want to talk about is Mirage Mirror. This card is so cool. I put it in as many decks as I can. It's just so versatile, and it's one of those cards you don't realize how good it is until you have it out. Basically, it's a 3-drop artifact, and you can pay 2 mana to make it a copy of any artifact, enchantment, creature, or land until end of turn. My favorite way to utilize this card is just steal people's just overpowered things. For someone like me, it's really the only chance I'll have to play a Gaia's Cradle is to make my Mirage Mirror a copy of somebody's Gaia's Cradle, or you can steal just any insane thing. You can make it a copy of their commander. You can make a copy of one of your own things to double an effect. Just mentioned a Parallel Lives. If you want a second one, here you go. It's just such a versatile card, and if you haven't played it yet and it seems underwhelming maybe at first, try it out, and when you see it in game, it's probably going to change your mind. Now, looking at the lands, this is going to be something that's surprising. We only have 33 lands in this deck, and in a card whose average CMC is a decent amount over 4, I believe it's 4.3 something, that may seem just alarming to some, but again, because our whole purpose is to cheat stuff out, you don't necessarily need to have as much mana available to you as you do in most other decks. Now, this is something you're going to want to test out yourselves. Basically, this is one of those sweet spot things, as really the number of lands in any deck are, but I feel like for most decks, that 37 to 40 range is right where you want to be. But the thing is, in a deck that focuses around cheating things out, you really need to play test it more. You can be flexible. It's completely up to you. But because we have so many ways to cheat things out or take advantage of things at low CMCs, we don't necessarily want to be drawing lands late game. And especially with an effect like Intet, if we're just flipping lands off the top of our library, it's really not helping us out much. In addition, we have so many ramp spells that it's able to make this 33 land count doable. But again, it's something you're going to want to do like a touch and go with, see what exactly works best for you. The first land I want to mention is Alchemist Refuge. It lets you play non-land cards at flash speed on a land. It's super powerful, and in instances where we have a lot of these big creatures and a lot of sorceries and not a ton of instant speed interactions outside of our counter spells and some removal, this allows us to kind of take our turn when we want to take it, and the fact that it's not taking up a slot outside of a land is huge. And the next one I'm talking about is Mosswort Bridge. This is just, again, so on theme. It lets us cheat something out. It lets us hide away a card when we play it, and if we get 10 or more power on board, which should not be very difficult in this deck, just for the low price of a green, you get to just play it out. It is the fact that a land can be this on theme with the deck just is so perfect. Alright, so that does it with all the categories of cards in this deck. Now it is time for that game-winning step. Again, always my favorite part. Really hope it's getting to your favorite part, and I cannot wait to kind of go over the explosive ways that this deck can win. So, first, kind of the most basic way. Attack with giant things. You'll be swinging with creatures like Ulamog and Uvara Hellkite, hopefully making more dragons, and those dragons are swinging. And we are running Xenagod himself to pump those creatures, make them even bigger. Or with Sirach that I mentioned earlier, they're going to have trample. There's a lot of ways to just take advantage of these massive creatures swinging away at people. The next way to win, and it's kind of funny, there's actually a combo way to win in this deck. A lot of time when you have big stompy decks, usually combat's your number one way. And I guess technically this is a combat win. But this combo is no surprise to anybody. It is Kiki Jiki and Pestermite. Essentially, how this works is if you're able to get them out together, you can tap to clone the Pestermite, which will untap Kiki to then tap to make a Pestermite, and you just end up with infinite Pestermites. And you have all these creatures that all have haste because they're the tokens, and you can just swing away and kill somebody. For people that don't like combos, obviously this isn't essential to the deck running. Kiki Jiki does fit super well, but you don't necessarily have to put Pestermite in a combo, but it is a really nice thing to have because there are those games that run long. There are times people will make it difficult for you to keep a steady board presence, and if it's games that just been stalling out, this is a great way to kind of get around that and end it. Now the last way to win the game is a really crazy creature that I had really just as of recently found out about, and that is Siege Behemoth. This card is insane. Not only does it have hexproof, but when it's attacking, all of your attacking creatures can assign combat damage as if they weren't blocked. You thought Sirach and Trample was good. This is a whole lot better. This is insane. Especially, again, we're going to have massive creatures, clones of these massive creatures, tokens of these massive creatures. And if we get a board full of these with this thing out, it doesn't matter what they have on board. If they can't blow everything up or if they can't stop you from attacking, they're probably going to be dead. Alright, so that's going to do it for this week's deck tech. I really hope you enjoyed this deck as much as I did. It is a really fun deck, and again, the flexibility this commander gives you to really just play whatever makes you happy with all the sub-themes that can work with the whole idea of just cheating mana cost is amazing. I love flexible commanders. I love commanders that just give you options, and Intet is definitely an example of that. With that, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear if you guys have any Intet builds that you need different takes. I would absolutely love to hear about it. Again, the description below will have the full deck list, so check that out too so you can see the entire thing over at Tapped Out. Check out all our decks over there, and I will see you guys next time.